What if everything you believe about the afterlife is a carefully crafted lie? What if those comforting messages from deceased loved ones are actually demonic deceptions designed to steal your soul? What if you had just 8 minutes to witness the shocking reality of what awaits every human after their final heartbeat? Buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every assumption you've ever had about death and eternity. Scripture declares in Hebrews 9 verse 27 that it is destined for humans to die once, followed by divine judgment. No second opportunities. Beyond the grave, no mulligans, no additional time for contemplation. If your life ended at this very moment, are you certain where your eternal spirit would reside? Christ didn't reveal these truths to me to terrify anyone. He disclosed them because of his profound love for humanity. I'm Fred, age 47, residing in Memphis, Tennessee. 4 months ago, I was declared clinically dead for 8 minutes following a massive stroke. The visions I experienced during that time will sound absolutely insane, but I'm compelled to share them because what Jesus unveiled about the immediate aftermath of death contradicts everything society teaches us. It happened on a Tuesday evening, in February. I recall this clearly because my wife Sarah had prepared her signature lasagna, and I was reviewing quarterly reports for my accounting firm. I'd been running my practice for 12 years, maintaining the same predictable schedule daily. Arrive at 8 a.m., crunch numbers, handle client meetings, depart at 6 p.m. I wouldn't describe myself as particularly devout. Sure, I acknowledged God's existence. We attended services during major holidays, occasionally blessed our meals. But honestly, spiritual matters weren't integrated into my everyday routine. I was consumed with client deadlines and whether our mortgage refinancing would get approved. That evening felt unusual, though. I experienced this strange tingling sensation in my left arm. Not exactly pain, more like pins and needles, as if my limb had fallen asleep while I was awake. "Feeling all right, honey?" Sarah inquired as I reached for my coffee mug. "Just fatigue from work." I should have heeded her concern. I should have sought medical attention immediately. Around 9:15 p.m., while reviewing tax documents, the tingling intensified dramatically. It felt like electrical currents shooting through my entire left side. I attempted to call for Sarah, but my speech came out garbled and incomprehensible. Then my vision blurred completely. The final sound I registered was my chair crashing to the floor and Sarah screaming, "Fred, someone call an ambulance." Then absolute stillness. Total quiet. Yet here's the bizarre aspect. I remained conscious of my surroundings. I was positioned directly above myself. I could observe my physical form collapsed on the office carpet. Sarah was performing chest compressions she'd learned from some TV medical drama. My business partner Jake had arrived and was frantically speaking with emergency dispatchers. And I was simply observing this scene like watching a film. I examined my hands and they appeared normal, yet somewhat translucent, resembling looking through tinted glass. Strangely, I felt no fear whatsoever. I experienced tranquility beyond anything I'd known in decades. The colors surrounding me appeared more vivid. The sound seemed muted, yet somehow more significant. I could hear Sarah whispering prayers through her tears. I'd never witnessed her pray before. Then I sensed a presence approaching from behind. I pivoted and my spirit immediately recognized the identity of this being. I cannot articulate how, but I knew with absolute certainty who stood before me. It was Jesus Christ, not matching any artistic depiction I'd seen. Yet somehow I was completely convinced. His presence permeated the entire space. Not like blinding radiance or theatrical effects, more like enveloping warmth, like sitting beside a fireplace during winter. Secure, serene. He remained silent initially. He simply gazed at me with eyes that seemed to perceive every action I'd ever taken, yet without condemnation, more like complete understanding. Then he extended his hand toward me. "Come along, Fred." His voice wasn't thunderous, but I experienced it resonating through my chest, through my very essence. Without hesitation, I grasped his hand, and reality transformed entirely. We weren't exactly walking. It resembled floating with intentional direction. The hospital environment dissolved, and we entered a realm that felt simultaneously brand new and mysteriously familiar. It was like standing in the most magnificent cathedral ever constructed. But instead of stained glass windows, the walls displayed existence itself. My existence. Every instant, every decision, every utterance I'd ever made. I must reveal something crucial to you, Jesus stated, regarding what occurs when humans die. A portal materialized before us. Not a physical opening, but I could see through it clearly. I witnessed my body in the emergency room. Medical professionals were still attempting resuscitation. Sarah had arrived and was clutching my hand, tears cascading down her cheeks. "How much time do I have remaining?" I asked. "That's not the appropriate question," he responded gently. "The question is, what becomes of the soul when the body ceases functioning?" What Jesus demonstrated next completely astounded me. I had always assumed that when people died, their spirits lingered on earth temporarily, perhaps watching over family members, perhaps trapped between dimensions. I was utterly mistaken. The instant physical death occurs, Jesus clarified, the soul immediately comes to me. There's no wandering period, no waiting phase, no becoming lost between realms. He showed me what resembled two doorways, one radiating with light and harmony. The other appeared dimmer, not frightening precisely, but profoundly melancholy, overwhelmingly sorrowful. Every person who dies passes through one of these entrances immediately. It depends on a single factor. Did they accept me as their Redeemer during their earthly existence? I observed as souls approached. Some rushed toward the light with pure joy. Others paused hesitantly, then slowly proceeded toward the darker entrance. All of them understood exactly where they belonged. But what about all those paranormal television programs? I inquired. What about people claiming communication with deceased family members? Jesus' expression became grave. "Marcus, this is precisely why I brought you back. Humanity needs to understand the truth." He revealed a scene that made my blood run cold. A woman named Jennifer sat in her bedroom weeping over her departed son. She was conversing with what she believed was his spirit. The entity was sharing information only her son would have known, consoling her, providing guidance. But then Jesus showed me the actual source behind that voice. It wasn't her son at all. It was something malevolent masquerading as him, exploiting her grief for its own purposes. Satan and his fallen angels study humans throughout their entire lives, Jesus explained. They memorize intimate details. They exploit this knowledge to deceive the bereaved. I witnessed additional scenes unfolding. A father receiving communications from his deceased wife. A young woman believing her grandmother was offering spiritual direction. All of them being systematically deceived. Why would they do this? I asked. To prevent them from seeking me. If they believe their loved ones remain nearby, they won't prepare for their own eternal destiny. They'll remain distracted from the truth. My heart shattered watching these individuals. They thought they were receiving comfort, but they were being manipulated. Jesus then transported me to observe the souls who had chosen the darker doorway. This wasn't hell itself. Not yet. This was a realm of waiting, what Scripture calls Hades. The souls there weren't experiencing torture, but they were completely aware of what they had forfeited. They remembered every opportunity they'd had to accept Jesus. Every instance someone had shared salvation with them. Every moment they'd chosen to postpone the decision for later. The anguish there was overwhelming. Not because God was punishing them, but because they finally comprehended what their choices had cost them. This is temporary, Jesus said. The final judgment comes later. But even now, they understand their decision was irreversible. One soul stared at me with such profound regret in his eyes. I could perceive his entire story. How he'd heard about Jesus countless times, but consistently believed he had more time. Always assumed he'd address it eventually. He never got his eventually. Jesus revealed something else that shook me to my core. He showed me time itself, not as days and hours, but as opportunities. Every single moment of our lives represents a chance to choose love over selfishness, truth over deception, Jesus over our own desires. I witnessed moments from my own life that I'd completely forgotten. Times when I'd assisted someone and never considered it significant. Times when I'd been harsh and dismissed it as inconsequential. But every single moment carried weight. Every choice had consequences. People assume they have unlimited time, Jesus said. They don't realize that every day, every hour, every breath is a precious gift, and gifts can be revoked. I contemplated all the time I'd squandered, all the opportunities to demonstrate love that I'd missed because I was too busy or too exhausted, or too self-absorbed. Tears filled my eyes. I've failed so many times. Jesus smiled the most beautiful smile I'd ever witnessed. That's exactly why I died for you, Fred. Not because you're perfect, but because you're not. That's when everything began to fade. The light grew softer. The voices became distant. I'm sending you back, Jesus said. People need to hear what you've witnessed. They need to understand that death isn't the conclusion. It's the commencement. And they need to know that the choice of where they spend eternity must be made now, while they're still alive. But I'm nothing special, I said. I'm just an accountant who processes tax returns. Perfect, he said. I don't need exceptional people. I need obedient people. The last thing I remember was the sensation of being drawn back, like being pulled through a vortex. I awakened in the cardiac unit with Sarah holding my hand. The doctor said I'd been clinically dead for 8 minutes. They called it a medical miracle that I returned without brain damage. But I knew it wasn't a miracle. It was a mission. The first thing I did was embrace Sarah and tell her I loved her. The second thing was to request a Bible. I had significant catching up to do. That was 4 months ago. My life looks completely different now. I still run my accounting practice, but I see it differently. Every client is someone who needs to hear about Jesus. Every day is another opportunity to make choices that matter for eternity. Sarah and I attend church every Sunday now, not because we're obligated, but because we desire to. We're studying the Bible together every evening, learning about the God who loved us enough to die for us. I've begun sharing my story with anyone willing to listen. Some people think I'm delusional. Some become angry. But others listen with tears in their eyes because they recognize it's true. Last week, my business partner Jake asked me to pray with him. He surrendered his life to Jesus right there in our conference room. I wept uncontrollably. Here's what I need you to grasp. Death is reality. Eternity is reality. And the choice of where you spend eternity must be made while you're still breathing. You might assume you have time. You might think you'll address it later. But what if later never arrives? I nearly discovered this the hard way. Scripture says in Hebrews 9:27 that it is appointed for humans to die once, and after that comes judgment. There are no second chances after death. No do-overs. No time to reconsider. If you died right now, today, do you know where you'd spend eternity? Jesus didn't show me these things to frighten people. He showed me because he loves us. Every single one of us. He doesn't want anyone to end up in that place of waiting filled with regret. He wants everyone to choose the door of light and peace. But it's a choice we must make while we're alive. All you need to do is acknowledge that you've sinned. Believe that Jesus died to pay for those sins and ask him to be the Lord of your life. It's that simple, and it's that important. For months ago, I thought I had all the time in the world. I thought I could deal with spiritual matters later when I had more time, when life became less hectic. I almost ran out of time completely. You might be reading this thinking, I'll consider this later. But what if there is no later? What if tonight is your final night? What if tomorrow never comes for you? Don't gamble with eternity. Don't wager your soul on having more time. The choice is yours, but you must make it while you still can. I'm praying that my story, this glimpse of what happens when we die, helps you make the most important decision of your life. Because once you take your last breath, the decision is final. And eternity is a very, very long time. What will you choose?